And there were even still financial analysts out there on Wall Street publishing as little as a couple of days ago. Boy, Ubisoft is a great buy right now at $11.50 a share. I'm like, no, it ain't. If they put 2 or 3 video games out there that absolutely fail, it's game over, kids. Renegade Online. Not 2 hours later, Ubisoft puts out a press release that this game, this $400 million probably game, God knows how much they spent on this thing, has been pushed back another 3 months. The entire fiscal outlook for the year of this game, they've pulled down. This is going to be a bloodbath at 3 a.m. when the French stock market opens, where Ubisoft is natively traded. So that's where we are with this. And it led to the article that you see here. Now, there were some other interesting tidbits that came out with this. I'll cover them more in the video tomorrow. Some of the statements from Yves Guillemot and the Guillemot family, who own 13% of Ubisoft. It's very curious. They're talking about how we need to focus on the games, and basically messaging and all this shouldn't come first. Language we've heard before from companies like Disney.
Yep.
But there's a reason I think Ubisoft might actually follow through with this. And that is the fact that, unlike Disney, Ubisoft does not have theme parks. They don't have ESPN. We've talked for years here on this channel that one of the advantages of Disney, and people keep asking all the time, how can the Walt Disney Company continue to produce the trash they do for Star Wars? How can they continue to produce trash for Marvel? And they keep losing money on this stuff. And they keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going. At least until recently, when it was announced that Marvel would be getting back to its phases 1 through 3 roots, right? The reason is because Disney makes a bunch of money from theme parks. Their most profitable venture by far. I keep reminding folks, the best year that Disney had at the box office was 2019. They made like 8 billion, 10 billion, some ridiculous figure globally. More than that, maybe 12 billion at the box office worldwide. That was the year they had the last Star Wars movie that went over $1 billion, right? They had the Avengers Endgame, which was almost $3 billion. They had the Lion King that year. They had all kind of they made $10 billion gross receipts. The net profit that they made, like what actually came back to Disney, the net from the theaters, it didn't even amount to like a month on ESPN. That's the difference. It didn't amount to Tuesday. I'm being facetious at theme parks, but you get my point. Ubisoft doesn't have that luxury. All Ubisoft has is video games. So if they put 2 or 3 video games out there that absolutely fail, they have collectively $1 billion or more invested in, it's game over, kids. No pun intended. And I was projecting a few weeks ago that Ubisoft is probably, they're going down hard. And there were even still financial analysts out there on Wall Street publishing as little as a couple of days ago. Boy, Ubisoft is a great buy right now at $11.50 a share. And they're like, I'm like, no, it ain't, because the news about Assassin's Creed hasn't hit yet, and I'm pretty damn sure it's coming. Here we are. It happened. This has been fascinating, and this is going to be a bloodbath. So we have somebody here who is a very avid gamer and probably was the first pre-order for Assassin's Creed Shadows, the great Ron Coleman, who I'm totally lying and making this shit up right now about.
I've got blisters on my fingers from so much gaming. But what you were just talking about, Valiant, and hello, Steph, good to see you again.
Hi. You too.
Is what you heard me talk about so many times on your show as the fallacy of abundance. And you're right, because Disney can cross-subsidize from other business lines, it can persist in that fallacy longer. But all the DEI stuff and all the equity stuff, all that garbage is premised on this idea that we have enough to go around and results and the traditional business metrics don't matter because money just grows on trees. And of course, one of the reasons that stopped working for Disney Studios, just looking at that one line of business, was that the franchises stopped becoming automatic vending machines.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the bottom of the well began to be heard.
That's just it. And go ahead, Steph.
I have a question with DEI consulting companies on the rise, and consulting with all of these gaming industries.
I don't know how much longer they're going to be on the rise. I can tell you that.
For sure. But they were on the rise for a little while, and they were doing consulting with all of these gaming companies, and telling them, hey, if you make more empathetic stories, if you make more inclusive stories, you are guaranteed to capture an even wider audience. You're throwing your net out and making all of these false promises.
It sounded good though, right? It sounded rational.
Exactly. Right.
Because you're guaranteed your franchise. You're guaranteed the guys who are already there. They'll never leave because they got nowhere else to go.
Right.
But why not also get a bunch of people who have demonstrated no interest whatsoever in your industry?
Exactly.
You're casting your net wider, and with them telling them hey, you're going to cast your net even wider and get all of these other people. I feel like they're stupid to buy into that.
Well, they should be now. And I think, look, and I totally agree with Ron because I've said the same thing before myself. There was a time years ago where that whole argument sounded fairly logical, right? And we've always the perfect example is Marvel Studios. Absolutely one of the best examples I could give anybody of that fallacy. And that is that phases 1 through 3, it was so big. It was the biggest intellectual property franchise ever in the history of Hollywood. Now, they had 20 movies. They collectively raked in $30 billion or whatever it was just in box office, retail box office, Marvel phases 1 through 3, whatever the hell it was. It was at that time that Disney and Kevin Feige, who had recently been relieved of the burden of Ike Perlmutter, tongue-in-cheek there, kids, that they felt like they could do no wrong. And I said, just as Phase 4 was starting, this was in 2021, when Shang-Chi was coming out, there was an interview with Kevin Feige. You could see it on his face. They're going to rest on their laurels. They think that Marvel as a brand is freaking and they're going to tout the fact that all of Marvel Phase 4 and 5 is going to be, Kevin Feige's words, in September of 2021. The most diverse, the most representative, blah, blah, blah. This is on the red carpet. He's doing promotional events for Marvel Phases 4 and Shang-Chi. He can't get over himself. And I'm like, holy crap, they're going to burn this to the ground. And they did it. They did it, but they were led down the primrose path of, just like y'all said, we can cast a wider net. We can get an even bigger audience if you just do this. And it's like, wait a minute. Like Ron said perfectly, let's go cater to an audience that we don't have and people that don't watch our stuff to begin with. I mean, it's the stupid. That's the part, right?
Yeah.
Now, to Ubisoft's credit, and again, and I think this has to do with the fact that, like Ron pointed out, Ubisoft, like most of these companies, are not capable of subsidizing failure to the extent that Disney has been able to because of the largesse of where most of their OI comes from, their operating income and the profit. And that's from the parks because they're high margin stuff. I mean, Disney's got the highest park prices now they've ever had, and they're going to keep going up. And this is why attendance keeps falling. This is why they're guiding towards the next 2 quarters of softening park attendance. Yeah.
I mean, this is...
price elasticity, Ron.
Yeah, exactly. They just assume that demand is completely inelastic or virtually inelastic.
You're right. What do you do? But you look here. Now, I want to bring this up. I want to I thought I had the actual digital file here. I I think, yeah, this is the investor page of Ubisoft, to get back to this, to drill it home before we close out here. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.